The stars looked cold and empty through the bridge windows of the mining ship New Seoul. Captain Hyunwoo stood with his hands behind his back watching the endless black space. His crew had been working in the asteroid fields for 3 months. Now, they were tired and ready to go home. Hyunwoo was a tall man with kind eyes and strong hands. He had been leading mining crews for 10 years. His crew trusted him because he always kept them safe. He never took unnecessary risks. That was why what happened next surprised everyone. The communications panel started beeping loudly. Yuna, the second-in-command, looked up from her station with worry in her eyes. She was a careful woman who always followed the rules. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and she wore her uniform perfectly pressed. "Captain, we are getting a distress signal," Yuna said. Her voice was tight with concern. "It is coming from Sector 7 near the gas giant." Hyunwoo walked over to look at the readings. The signal was weak and broken. It was not in any human language. The computer was trying to translate it, but the words kept changing. "What kind of ship is sending it?" Hyunwoo asked. Yuna typed commands into her console. Her fingers moved quickly across the keys. After a few moments, she looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, the ship design is not in our database. The metal composition is unknown. The energy signatures are completely different from human technology." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing. In all their years of deep space mining, they had never encountered alien technology. Humans had been exploring space for over 200 years. They had found empty planets and dead civilizations, but never living aliens. "Sir, we should report this to Earth Command and wait for instructions," Yuna said firmly. She crossed her arms over her chest. "We are not equipped for first contact situations." Hyunwoo stared at the readings on the screen. The distress signal was getting weaker. Whatever was out there was dying or running out of power. He thought about the protocols they were supposed to follow. Earth Command would want them to wait. They would send a proper diplomatic ship with scientists and military escorts. That could take months. "How long until the signal stops?" he asked. The communications officer Min Ho was a young man with nervous hands. He checked his equipment twice before answering. "At the current rate of decay, maybe 6 hours, sir. Maybe less." Hyunwoo closed his eyes and took a deep breath. His father had been a rescue worker on Earth. He had always said that when someone was in trouble, you helped them first and asked questions later. It did not matter if they were different from you. "Set course for the signal," Hyunwoo ordered. "Full speed." Yuna stood up quickly. Her chair rolled backward. "Sir, this goes against all protocols. We could be walking into a trap. We do not know if these aliens are hostile." "Someone is dying out there," Hyunwoo said quietly. "We are going to help them." The crew looked uncertain, but they began preparing the ship. They had worked with Captain Hyunwoo long enough to trust his judgment. If he said they were going to help, then they would help. The New Seoul turned away from the asteroid field and headed toward the unknown signal. The ship was not built for rescue missions. It was a simple mining vessel with basic life support and minimal weapons. But it was fast and the crew was experienced. As they got closer to the source of the signal, their sensors picked up more details. The alien ship was huge and shaped like a crescent moon. It was dark except for a few flickering lights. Parts of the hull were torn open and atmosphere was leaking into space. "Life signs?" asked Hyunwoo. Minho checked his readings. "Very faint, sir. I am reading 1, maybe 2 life forms. The signals are weak and getting weaker." The alien ship was beautiful even in its damaged state. The metal had a purple tint that seemed to shimmer in the starlight. Strange symbols were carved into the hull in flowing patterns. Whatever civilization had built this ship was far more advanced than humans. "Bring us alongside," Hyunwoo ordered. "Prepare the docking tube." Yuna shook her head, but she followed orders. The crew worked quickly to extend their docking system to the alien vessel. It took 30 minutes to create a seal between the two ships. The alien hull was made of materials their tools had never encountered before. Hyunwoo put on his environmental suit. The air inside the alien ship might not be safe for humans. He took engineer So-young and medical officer Ji-hoon with him. So-young was a small woman with clever hands who could fix anything. Ji-hoon was calm under pressure and had saved many lives. They entered the alien ship through an airlock that had been damaged in whatever attack had crippled the vessel. The corridors were tall and wide. Everything was built for beings much larger than humans. The walls glowed with a soft light that seemed to come from the metal itself. They followed the life signs deeper into the ship. The alien vessel was clearly military. They passed rooms filled with weapons and armor. Everything was elegant but deadly. These were not peaceful explorers. In what appeared to be the command center, they found her. The alien queen lay on the floor surrounded by broken equipment. She was huge even lying down. Her skin was pale blue with silver markings that ran along her arms and face. She wore armor that looked like it had been crafted by artists. Even dying, she looked fierce and proud. In her arms, she clutched two small containers that pulsed with warm light. When she saw the humans, her eyes opened wide. They were completely black with flecks of gold. She tried to speak, but only made sounds they could not understand. Then the translation device on Ji-hoon's belt started working. "Please," the alien queen whispered. Her voice was deep and musical even through the translator. "My daughters. You must protect my daughters. They are all that remains." She lifted the containers toward Hyunwoo with shaking hands. Inside each one was something small and moving. The containers were warm to the touch and seemed to pulse like heartbeats. "The usurper comes," the queen continued. Her breathing was becoming shallow. "He will kill them to end our bloodline. Please, human, I see kindness in your eyes. Save them." The queen pressed the containers into Hyunwoo's hands. As soon as he touched them, he felt something strange. A connection, a trust. These were not just containers. They were eggs or cocoons holding living beings. "I promise," Hyunwoo said softly. "I will protect them." The alien queen smiled. It was the first time any human had seen an alien smile. Then she closed her golden-flecked eyes and died. The containers in Hyunwoo's hands began to crack open. The containers split open with soft cracking sounds like eggshells breaking. Hyunwoo held them carefully as two tiny beings emerged. They were no bigger than human newborn babies, but they looked completely different from anything he had ever seen. Their skin was the same pale blue as their mother, but much lighter. Silver markings ran along their small arms and faces in delicate patterns. They had 4 arms each, and their eyes were large and completely black. When they opened their mouths to cry, the sound was musical and sad. Ji-hoon, the medical officer, moved closer to examine them. His scanner beeped as it tried to analyze their biology. The readings made no sense according to human medicine, but one thing was clear. The babies were healthy and very much alive. "We need to get them back to the ship," Ji-hoon said. "I can set up a medical bay to care for them." So Young, the engineer, was taking pictures of the alien technology around them. "Captain, we should document everything here before we leave. This ship contains technology centuries ahead of ours." Hyunwoo looked down at the 2 alien infants in his arms. They had stopped crying and were looking up at him with their large, black eyes. Something about their gaze seemed ancient and wise despite their obvious youth. "The babies come first," he said firmly. "We can study the technology later." They returned to the new Seoul quickly. Word had spread through the ship that they had found alien survivors. The entire crew gathered in the medical bay to see the historic first contact. Everyone whispered among themselves as Hyunwoo carried the infants inside. The medical bay was small and designed for human injuries. Ji-hoon had cleared 2 beds and set up monitoring equipment. He took the babies gently from Hyunwoo and placed them on the soft white sheets. Immediately, both infants began crying again. The sound filled the medical bay with their musical wails. Ji-hoon tried everything he could think of to comfort them. He checked their temperature and vital signs. He tried feeding them different liquids. Nothing worked. "Their biology is completely different from humans," Ji-hoon said with frustration. "I do not know what they need." So Young had been watching quietly from the corner. She was not good with people, but she understood how things worked. She noticed something the others had missed. "Captain," she said softly, "watch what happens when you get close to them." Hyunwoo approached the beds. As soon as he was within arm's reach, both babies stopped crying. They turned their heads toward him and made soft cooing sounds. When he stepped back, they started crying again. They want you near them, So Young observed. But why you specifically? Yuna had been standing by the door looking uncomfortable. She did not approve of bringing aliens aboard their ship, but she could not ignore her training as an officer. Perhaps they imprint on the first being they see after hatching, she suggested. Like some Earthbirds do. Ji-hoon ran more scans while Hyunwoo stood close to the babies. Their heart rates are elevated when you are away. They calm down when you approach. It appears to be some kind of bonding response. Over the next several hours, they experimented with different approaches. Other crew members tried to comfort the infants, but nothing worked as well as Hyunwoo's presence. The babies would accept food and care from others, but only if the captain was nearby. Minho, the communications officer, had been monitoring alien frequencies since they returned to the ship. He burst into the medical bay with urgent news. "Captain, I am picking up military transmissions. Someone calling himself Warlord Kethmar is ordering all ships to search for the royal offspring. He has put a death warrant on any survivors of the royal bloodline." The bridge became tense. Everyone understood what this meant. The babies they had rescued were not just alien infants. They were royalty, and someone wanted them dead. "How long before they find us?" Hyunwoo asked. "Unknown, sir. But they are searching, systematically. Eventually they will check this sector." Hyunwoo looked down at the two tiny aliens. They seemed so helpless and innocent. The idea that someone wanted to kill them made his protective instincts flare up strongly. "We need names for them," he said quietly. "They deserve names." So Young stepped forward. She had been thinking about this since they found the babies. The one with more silver markings could be Ara. It means beautiful in Korean. The smaller one could be Leah. It means meadow. Hyunwoo nodded. Ara and Leah. Good names for brave little ones. Over the following days, the crew learned more about caring for the alien babies. They needed warmth more than human infants. Their diet was complex and required special preparation. Most importantly, they needed constant contact with living beings. Ji-hoon discovered something remarkable during his examinations. The babies only truly relaxed when they were pressed against human skin, specifically against the chest where they could hear heartbeats. "It makes sense from an evolutionary perspective," he explained to the gathered crew. "Their species is clearly social. The young need constant reassurance that they are protected." The crew began taking shifts holding the babies. Ara and Leah would sleep peacefully when nestled against someone's chest, but became distressed when placed alone in beds. It was exhausting work, but everyone volunteered without complaint. Hyunwoo spent the most time with them. During his sleep periods, he would rest with one baby on each side of his chest. The ship's doctor had initially protested, but the baby's health improved dramatically with the constant contact. "They are growing faster than they should," Ji-hoon reported after a week. "Their cognitive development is remarkable. I think they understand more than we realize." Indeed, Ara and Leah seemed to respond to different crew members in unique ways. They cooed happily when So Young worked on equipment nearby. They became alert and attentive when Minho played music. They seemed to recognize each person's voice and presence. More concerning were the reports Minho brought from his monitoring of alien communications. The search for the royal offspring was intensifying. Warlord Kethmar was offering massive rewards for information about their location. He has dispatched his personal enforcer, Commander Zeth Kor, to lead the search, Minho reported. "From what I can translate, this Zeth Kor is extremely dangerous. He has never failed a mission." Hyunwoo sat in the captain's chair, with both babies sleeping against his chest. Their small bodies rose and fell with his breathing. Their trust in him was complete and absolute. Yuna approached carefully. She had grown fond of the infants despite her initial concerns. "Sir, we should consider our options. We could try to find a safe planet to leave them. Somewhere remote where they could grow up in peace." "No," Hyunwoo said firmly. "Their mother asked me to protect them. That means staying with them until they are safe, really safe." The babies stirred slightly at his voice but did not wake. In the soft light of the bridge, their silver markings seemed to glow faintly. They looked peaceful and content, nestled against their human guardian. Outside the bridge windows, the stars continued their ancient dance. But now the emptiness of space felt different. It felt full of danger for the two small lives depending on human protection. The hunt was coming and everyone knew it. 3 weeks had passed since they rescued Ara and Leah from the dying Queen's ship. The alien babies had grown remarkably fast. They were now the size of human 6-month-old infants, but their intelligence seemed much more advanced. Their large, black eyes followed conversations between crew members, and they made different sounds for different people. Hyunwoo sat in his captain's chair with Ara nestled against his chest. Her silver markings had become brighter over the weeks and sometimes seemed to pulse with soft light. Leah was with So Young in the engineering bay, where she enjoyed listening to the hum of the ship's engines. Minho suddenly stood up from his communications station. His face was pale and his hands were shaking slightly. "Captain, we have a problem. Multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They are surrounding us." The bridge became very quiet except for the soft sounds Ara was making. Hyunwoo could feel her small body tense against his chest as if she sensed the danger approaching. "How many ships?" he asked calmly. "5 vessels, sir. All of them are the same design as the Queen's ship, but these ones are intact and heavily armed." Yuna moved to the tactical station and began running scans. "Sir, their weapons are charging. We are being hailed on all frequencies." "Put them through," Hyunwoo said. He gently adjusted Ara so she was more comfortable against him. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of an alien warship. The being standing in the center was tall and imposing. His skin was darker blue than the Queen's had been, and his silver markings formed sharp, angular patterns. His black eyes held no warmth or kindness. "I am Commander Zethkor of the Valari, Imperial Fleet," the alien said. His voice was deep and threatening even through the translator. "You are harboring criminals against the Valari Empire. Surrender the royal offspring immediately or your ship will be destroyed." Hyunwoo stood, slowly. Ara made a small, worried sound and wrapped her tiny 4 arms around his neck. "I am Captain Hyunwoo of the vessel New Seoul. We rescued survivors from a damaged ship. They are under our protection." Zethkor's eyes narrowed. "The Pretender Queen is dead. Her spawn have no claim to protection under galactic law. They are enemies of the rightful ruler Warlord Kethmar." "These are innocent children," Hyunwoo said firmly. "We will not hand them over to be harmed." The alien commander laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Innocent? You know nothing human. Those creatures you protect will grow to become the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. They carry the old bloodline. They must die." During this conversation, something strange began happening. Ara was becoming restless against Hyunwoo's chest. Her small hands were gripping his uniform tightly and her breathing was getting faster. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Tai Jin, the security chief, spoke urgently into his communicator. "All hands to battle stations. Alien boarding parties detected in sections 4 and 7. "So much for negotiation," Hyunwoo said as she began powering up their limited weapon systems. Zethkor smiled coldly from the screen. "My warriors are already aboard your vessel, human. In moments, they will retrieve the royal spawn and eliminate anyone who stands in their way." The screen went dark as the alien commander cut the communication. Throughout, the New Seoul emergency lights began flashing, and the crew rushed to defend their ship. Hyunwoo activated the ship-wide communication system. "All crew members, this is the captain. We are being boarded by hostile forces. Protect Ara and Leah at all costs. They are counting on us." Tae-jin arrived on the bridge with 2 security officers carrying plasma rifles. He was a sturdy man who had served in the Earth Defense Force before joining the mining crew. "Captain, we need to get you and the child to a secure location," he said urgently. "What about Leah?" Hyunwoo asked. "So Young has her in engineering. That section is sealed and defended. They could hear weapons fire echoing through the ship's corridors." The Valari boarding parties were fighting their way toward the bridge and engineering simultaneously. The human crew was putting up fierce resistance despite being outnumbered and outgunned. As they moved through the ship toward a secure compartment, Ara began making sounds Hyunwoo had never heard before. She was still pressed against his chest, but her small body was trembling with what seemed like fear or anger. A group of Valari warriors appeared at the end of the corridor ahead of them. They were massive beings wearing advanced armor and carrying weapons that glowed with energy. Their leader pointed at Hyunwoo and shouted something in their language. Tae Jin and his officers opened fire, but the Valari armor absorbed most of the damage. The alien warriors began advancing steadily down the corridor toward them. That was when something incredible happened. Ara suddenly lifted her head from Hyunwoo's chest and let out a piercing cry. It was unlike any sound she had made before. The cry seemed to fill the entire corridor with resonating energy. The advancing Valari warriors stopped as if they had been struck by lightning. They grabbed their heads and staggered backward. Their leader dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. The sound lasted only a few seconds, but when it stopped, the alien warriors were clearly disoriented and in pain. Tae Jin did not waste the opportunity. He and his officers charged forward and managed to subdue the boarding party. "What was that?" one of the security officers asked in amazement. Hyunwoo looked down at Ara. The tiny alien baby was looking up at him with her large black eyes. For a moment he could have sworn he saw something ancient and powerful in her gaze. Meanwhile, in the engineering section, similar events were taking place. Leah had been resting against So Young's chest when the Valari broke through the sealed doors. As the alien warriors raised their weapons, something extraordinary happened. A shimmering energy field suddenly appeared around So Young and the baby. The Valari weapons fired, but their energy blasts could not penetrate the protective barrier. Leah was somehow projecting a shield around herself and her human guardian. The engineering crew used the confusion to counterattack. Led by So Young, who was still carrying the baby, they managed to drive off the boarders. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out. Wherever the crew fought to protect the alien babies, they found themselves fighting with unusual courage and determination. The idea that someone wanted to harm the innocent infants they had cared for filled them with protective rage. The Valari warriors had expected to face frightened miners. Instead, they encountered humans willing to risk everything to protect two alien children who had become part of their family. Commander Zethkor watched the battle reports with growing confusion and anger. His elite warriors were being defeated by a simple mining crew. Worse yet, the royal offspring were displaying powers that should not manifest until they reached adolescence. After 2 hours of fighting, the remaining Valari warriors retreated to their ships. They had underestimated both human determination and the bond between the crew and their alien charges. As the alien vessels pulled back, Hyunwoo returned to the bridge, still carrying Ara. The tiny being was sleeping peacefully against his chest as if nothing unusual had happened. Zethkor appeared on the screen one final time. His armor was damaged and his expression was filled with hatred. "This is not over, human. The full might of the Valari fleet will hunt you down. There is nowhere in the galaxy you can hide those abominations." "Then we will be ready for you," Hyunwoo replied calmly. The alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the new soul alone among the stars. The crew had won this battle, but everyone knew the war was just beginning. The days after the first attack were busy and tense. The new soul had become a moving fortress as Hyunwoo and his crew prepared for the next battle. Everyone knew that Commander Zethkor would return with more ships and better weapons. Ara and Leah were growing at an amazing speed. After only 1 month since their hatching, they were now the size of human toddlers, but their minds were developing even faster than their bodies. They could understand complex conversations, and their eyes showed intelligence far beyond their apparent age. Hae-won, the ship's pilot, was pushing their vessel to its absolute limits. She was a skilled woman with steady hands who had never lost a race or failed to outrun danger. Now she spent her days plotting escape routes and testing the ship's maximum speeds. "Captain, our engines are running at 110% capacity," she reported. "I can squeeze maybe 5% more, but after that we risk complete failure." Dong-hyun, the scientist, had been studying the babies constantly since the HFY attack. His research equipment was simple compared to what real laboratories had, but he was learning remarkable things about Ara and Leah. "Their neural development is unprecedented," he told Hyunwoo during one of their daily meetings. "They are processing information at rates that should be impossible. I think they are somehow connected to each other telepathically." This was true. Ara and Leah had begun communicating without words. When one was hungry, the other would also want food. When Ara was with Hyunwoo on the bridge, Leah would turn toward that direction, from wherever she was in the ship. They seemed to share thoughts and feelings. More importantly, they had begun sharing these thoughts with the human crew members who cared for them. Hyunwoo sometimes found himself knowing things he had never learned. Technical details about Valari technology would suddenly appear in his mind when he was holding one of the babies. Subin, the navigator, had been working with these new insights to plot their course through space. She was a quiet woman who understood star charts better than anyone else in the fleet. The information coming from the babies was helping her find routes that Valari ships would never expect. "Captain, they are showing me safe passages through the asteroid fields," she reported. "Paths that our sensors cannot detect, but somehow they know are there." The babies were also revealing fragments of memories inherited from their mother. These memories came in pieces like broken pictures, but they contained vital information about Valari weaknesses and hidden locations. During one quiet evening shift, Hyunwoo was alone on the bridge with both babies. Ara was sleeping against his chest while Leah rested in his lap. Suddenly, images began flowing into his mind. He saw a hidden planet covered in purple forests, ancient Valari buildings carved from living rock, ships waiting in underground hangars. Most importantly, he saw faces, Valari nobles who had remained loyal to the true queen and were waiting for her daughters to return. "There is a place," he whispered to the sleeping infants. "A place where you have family waiting." Jae-sung the mechanic had been working day and night to improve their weapons and defenses. He was a clever man who could make anything work better than it was designed to. Using the technical knowledge the babies were sharing, he had managed to upgrade their systems far beyond their original capabilities. "The plasma cannons are now operating at twice their rated power," he reported proudly. "And I have installed shield generators using principles from the Valari ship we found." The crew was changing too. Caring for Ara and Leah had brought out protective instincts that many of them never knew they had. Tough miners and engineers who had never thought about having children were now devoted guardians of 2 alien babies. Minho continued monitoring Valari communications from his station. The news was not good. Warlord Kethmar had declared the human ship to be an enemy of the Empire. Bounty hunters and military vessels throughout the galaxy were now searching for them. "Sir, the reward for capturing us has increased again," Minho reported. "They are offering enough credits to buy a small planet." But there was also other news mixed in with the military traffic. Rumors of Valari noble houses that were unhappy with Kethmar's rule. Reports of uprisings on border worlds. The Empire was not as stable as the warlord wanted everyone to believe. During their second week of running from the Valari fleet, something wonderful happened. Ara spoke her first word. She was resting against Hyunwoo's chest during his sleep. When she looked up at him with her large black eyes. "Papa," she said clearly in perfect Korean. Hyunwoo felt tears forming in his eyes. This tiny alien being saw him as her father. The responsibility was overwhelming but also filled him with pride and love. The next day, Leah said her first words to So-young. "Mama safe," she said while the engineer was checking the ship's power systems. So-young had to stop working for several minutes to compose herself. She had never wanted children of her own, but now she could not imagine life without Leah's small arms wrapped around her neck. As the days passed, the babies continued to develop their abilities. Ara could now project her sonic cry with more control. Instead of disabling everyone nearby, she could focus it on specific targets. Leah's energy shields had become stronger and could protect multiple people at once. More importantly, they were learning human values along with their natural Valari instincts. They understood the difference between protecting and attacking. They knew that strength should be used to help others, not to dominate them. The breakthrough came when Dong-hyun was studying some of the memory fragments the babies had shared. Hidden in the images of the secret planet was a set of star coordinates. Subin ran the numbers through her navigation computer and found a match. "Captain, I have found it," she announced excitedly. "The hidden stronghold. It is 3 weeks' travel from our current position." Hyunwoo looked down at Ara and Leah, who were both awake and listening intently to the conversation. Even though they looked like small children, their eyes held ancient wisdom. "Are you ready to go home?" he asked them softly. Ara reached up and touched his face with her small four-fingered hand. "Home is where Papa is," she said simply. Leah nodded from where she sat in So Young's lap. "Family together," she added. The crew of the New Soul had become more than guardians of two alien princesses. They had become a family bound together by love and shared danger. Whatever waited for them at the hidden planet, they would face it together. Hyunwoo gave the order to change course toward the coordinates. Behind them, in the vast emptiness of space, Valari warships continued their relentless pursuit. But ahead lay the possibility of allies and safety for the two small beings, who had changed all their lives forever. The hidden planet Kethalar was beautiful beyond anything the crew of the New Soul had ever seen. Purple forests covered rolling hills, while silver rivers wound between ancient cities carved from living crystal. The planet's 3 moons hung in the violet sky like pearls against silk. But beauty could not hide the signs of a civilization in decline. Many of the crystal cities were dark and empty. The orbital defense platforms that should have protected the planet were powered down. Only a few ships moved between the moons, and most of those looked old and worn. Ara and Leah pressed against the bridge windows, staring down at their ancestral home. They were now the size of human 5-year-olds, but their intelligence continued to grow daily. Their silver markings had become brighter and more complex as they developed. "It is sad," Ara said softly. Her voice carried the musical quality all Valari possessed, but there was human emotion in her words. So many empty places where people used to live. Leah nodded while holding So Young's hand tightly. "The sadness goes deep into the ground itself," she observed. "This world is dying." An ancient Valari ship approached them as they entered the planet's atmosphere. It was elegant but clearly very old. The communication system crackled with age as a voice spoke to them in the Valari language. The babies translated for their human family. "Elder Morthek welcomes the royal daughters home," Ara said. "He has been waiting many cycles for our return." They landed in a courtyard surrounded by towering crystal spires. The architecture was breathtaking, but everything showed signs of neglect. Vines grew through cracks in the walls, and some of the crystal formations had lost their inner light. Elder Morthek came to greet them personally. He was ancient even by Valari standards. His pale blue skin was marked with deep wrinkles, and his silver markings had faded to barely visible lines. But his black eyes still held intelligence and dignity. When he saw Ara and Leah, his eyes filled with tears that sparkled like liquid starlight. He spoke in the old language, but the babies translated his words. "He says we look exactly like our mother did as children," Leah whispered to Hyunwoo. "He says we carry her spirit as well as her blood." The elder led them to a great hall where other Valari nobles waited. There were perhaps 50 of them, but Hyunwoo could see that this was all that remained of a once mighty civilization. They were the last loyal followers of the true royal line. Elder Morthek began to speak, and Ara translated his words for the human crew. What they learned changed everything they thought they knew about the Valari Empire. "He says their people have been dying slowly for many generations," Ara said. "They became too focused on war and conquest. They forgot how to create and nurture. They forgot how to love." The elder gestured to images carved into the crystal walls. They showed the history of the Valari people from their early days as explorers and builders to their transformation into pure warriors. "The royal bloodline was different," Leah continued the translation. "The queens and kings carried genes for both warrior strength and emotional intelligence. They could fight when needed, but they also knew when to show mercy and kindness." Dong-hyun was fascinated by this information. He had been studying the baby's development and now understood why they were so different from normal Valari. They carried the complete genetic heritage of their people, including traits that had been bred out of the general population. "Warlord, Kethmar represents the final stage of our decline," Ara translated as the elder continued. "He is pure aggression, with no capacity for wisdom or compassion. Under his rule, our empire will destroy itself within a few generations. But there was more to the revelation. Elder Morthek explained something that shocked everyone in the hall. Our mother Queen Naraveth saw this coming, Leah said as she translated. She studied many species looking for one that could teach her daughters what our people had forgotten. The elder activated a holographic display that showed various alien species. Humans appeared among them along with detailed studies of human behavior and psychology. She chose humans specifically, Ara said with wonder in her voice. She knew that humans had the perfect combination of protective instincts and emotional intelligence. She wanted us to learn from you. Hyunwoo felt his breath catch in his throat. She planned for us to find you. Elder Morthek nodded and continued speaking. The babies translated together, finishing each other's sentences as they often did. She damaged her own ship in that asteroid field knowing human miners worked there. She calculated that humans would try to rescue anyone in distress. She trusted that human nature would make you want to protect helpless infants. So Young wiped tears from her eyes. She sacrificed herself to give you the childhood she wanted you to have. More than that, Era said. She wanted us to learn human values. How to care for others, how to put family before personal power, how to fight not for conquest but for protection. The revelation continued. The elder explained that this had always been the plan. Raise the royal daughters among humans until they were old enough to return and reclaim their throne. But they would rule with wisdom learned from their human family. The empire can be saved, Leah translated, but only if we can show our people a different way to live, a way that combines Valari strength with human compassion. Elder Morthek showed them more holographic records. Queen Naraveth had spent years studying human behavior. She had been particularly interested in how humans formed family bonds with beings different from themselves, how they would sacrifice everything to protect those they loved. She knew that humans would not just keep us alive, Ara said. She knew you would love us like your own children. She knew you would teach us that. Real strength comes from caring for others. Hyunwoo looked around at his crew. Every face showed the same emotion. They had been chosen not just to rescue 2 alien babies, but to raise future leaders who could save an entire civilization. What happens now? He asked. Elder Morthek smiled for the first time since they arrived. Through the babies, he explained, that this was only the beginning. Word was already spreading throughout the galaxy that the true royal heirs had returned. Valari noble houses that had been hiding their opposition to Kethmar were beginning to declare their loyalty to the princesses. But there would be a final confrontation. Kethmar could not allow the royal daughters to live. He would bring his entire fleet to destroy them and everyone who supported them. We have perhaps days before he arrives, Ara translated. When he comes, it will be with enough ships to burn this world to ash. Leah looked up at Hyunwoo with her large black eyes. Will you stay with us, Papa, even if it means fighting a war? Hyunwoo knelt down so he was at eye level with both girls. Around him, his crew nodded their agreement before he even asked. We are your family, he said simply. Families stick together no matter what. Outside the crystal hall, the 3 moons of Kethalar continued their ancient dance across the violet sky. Soon those same skies would be filled with warships, and the future of an entire species would be decided by the bond between humans and 2 alien children they had chosen to love. 3 days later, the skies above Kethalar turned dark with enemy ships. Warlord Kethmar had come with the largest fleet ever assembled in Valari history. Hundreds of warships blotted out the stars as they took positions around the planet. But they were not alone. Word of the royal daughter's return had spread faster than anyone expected. Noble houses from across the galaxy had sent what ships they could. Loyal Valari commanders had defected from Kethmar's fleet, bringing their crews with them. Even some non-Valari species had sent vessels to support the rightful queens. Ara and Leah stood on the command platform of the Crystal Fortress, watching the fleet formations through the transparent walls. They had grown again during their time on Kethalar. Now they appeared to be about 7 years old, but their minds held wisdom that amazed even the ancient elders. So many ships, Ara observed. Her voice was calm, despite the approaching battle. So many people willing to fight for a better future. Leah nodded while holding Hyunwoo's hand. They come not just for us but for what we represent. Hope that things can change. Hyunwoo looked down at the two beings who had become his daughters in every way that mattered. They wore simple clothes adapted from human designs rather than royal armor. Their silver markings glowed softly in the crystal light, and their black eyes held determination mixed with compassion. The communication system activated and filled the fortress with Warlord Kethmar's voice. He spoke in the old Valari tongue, but his meaning was clear even before the babies translated. "Surrender the pretenders and I will allow this world to die quickly," Ara translated. "Continue to resist and every being on this planet will suffer before death comes." Elder Morthek stepped forward to respond, but Leah raised her small hand. "Let us answer him," she said quietly. "It is time." The two princesses moved to the communication console. They were still small enough that they had to stand on chairs to reach the controls, but their presence filled the entire room with quiet authority. "Warlord Kethmar," Ara spoke in perfect Valari. Her childish voice carried across space to reach every ship in both fleets. "I am Princess Ara, heir to the Crystal Throne. This is my sister, Princess Leah. We have returned to claim what is ours by right of birth and worthiness." Throughout the enemy fleet there was surprised silence. Many of Kethmar's warriors were hearing the voices of their true queens for the first time. The royal accent was unmistakable and carried genetic resonance that all Valari recognized instinctively. "You are children playing with powers you do not understand," Kethmar replied. "You have been corrupted by alien influences. You are no longer truly Valari." Leah stepped forward. "You are right. We are no longer purely Valari. We have learned from humans what our people forgot long ago. We have learned that real strength comes from protecting others, not conquering them. We have learned that a true leader serves their people, rather than demanding service from them." Era continued. "We have learned that love is stronger than fear." On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Kethmar snarled with rage. He was a massive Valari warrior whose silver markings formed aggressive patterns across his dark blue skin. His eyes held no warmth, only the cold calculation of a pure predator. "Enough of this weakness," he roared. "All ships attack. Burn this world and everyone on it." The battle that followed was unlike anything in Valari history. Instead of the usual savage combat between rival factions, this was a fight between two completely different philosophies of life. Kethmar's forces fought with traditional Valari brutality. They showed no mercy and expected none in return. Death in battle was honor, and victory was the only goal that mattered. But the forces defending Keth Alar fought differently. They protected each other's ships when they were damaged. They rescued survivors from destroyed vessels even when it put them at risk. They fought not just to win but to preserve as many lives as possible. At the center of the defending fleet, the new Soul took position alongside ancient Valari dreadnoughts. Hyunwoo and his crew had been given command of a task force that included ships from 6 different species. The miners who had become guardians now led warriors in the most important battle of their lives. "All ships maintain formation," Hyunwoo commanded. "Protect the wounded vessels and cover their escape routes." The battle raged for hours among the 3 moons of Keth Alar. Explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks, while ships maneuvered in complex patterns of attack and defense. In the crystal, Fortress Ara and Leah worked together to coordinate their forces. Their telepathic connection allowed them to process information from hundreds of ships simultaneously. They could see the entire battle like a vast 3-dimensional chess game. "The enemy is concentrating their attack on the orbital platforms," Ara reported. "If those fall, they can bombard the planet directly." "Redirect squadrons 7 through 12 to defend the platforms," Leah ordered. "Tell them help is coming." Elder Morthek watched in amazement as the young princesses commanded their fleet. They showed tactical brilliance that rivaled the greatest military minds in history. But more importantly, they never forgot that each ship contained living beings whose lives mattered. The tide of battle began to turn when something unexpected happened. Ships from Kethmar's own fleet began switching sides in the middle of combat. Entire squadrons turned their weapons on their former allies and joined the defense of Keth Alar. The crews are listening to us, Leah explained. They hear voices that speak of hope, instead of endless war. They want to believe in something better. Kethmar realized his advantage was disappearing as more ships defected. In desperation, he decided to lead a direct assault on the planet himself. His personal dreadnought and its escort ships broke away from the main fleet and headed straight for the Crystal Fortress. He is coming for us personally, Ara observed. He knows that if he can kill us, the rebellion will collapse. Hyunwoo activated the fortress defense systems, but everyone knew they could not stop a direct assault by Kethmar's flagship. The massive ship was designed to destroy entire cities. That was when the two princesses made their final decision. "We will meet him," they said together. "Not with weapons, but with truth." Before anyone could stop them, Ara and Leah activated the fortress communication array at full power. Their voices reached not just the attacking ships but every Valari vessel in the system. More than that, their telepathic abilities amplified by the crystal technology reached into the minds of every warrior in both fleets. "Look at us," Ara said simply. "We are your queens, but we are also children who learned love from humans. We are strong because we were protected by beings who chose to care for us," Leah added. "We are wise because we learned that real victory comes from making everyone better, not destroying your enemies." Throughout the fleets, Valari warriors experienced something most had never felt before. Through the telepathic connection, they experienced human emotions. They felt the protective love that Hyunwoo and his crew had for the alien babies they had rescued. They felt the joy of So Young when Leah said her first words. They felt the pride in Hyunwoo's heart when Ara called him Papa. For the first time, in generations, Valari warriors understood what they had lost when they abandoned everything except aggression. They remembered what it felt like to care about something more than personal glory. On his flagship, Kethmar fought against the emotional transmission with all his mental strength. But even he could not completely resist the power of love amplified by royal telepathy and crystal technology. "This is weakness," he snarled even as tears began forming in his black eyes. "This is not the Valari way." "The old Valari way was leading us to extinction," Ara replied gently. "We offer a new way, a way that makes us strong enough to survive and grow." Throughout the fleet, weapons powered down as warriors on both sides stopped fighting. They were too overwhelmed by the emotional revelation to continue combat. Many were experiencing love and compassion for the first time in their lives. Kethmar's own flagship crew turned against him. They had felt what it was like to protect rather than destroy, and they wanted more of it. The warlord found himself alone on his bridge as his warriors chose hope over hatred. In the end, there was no final climactic duel. Kethmar simply surrendered, because he had no one left willing to fight for the old ways. The galaxy had seen what Valari civilization could become when guided by wisdom, instead of pure aggression. The coronation of Queens Ara and Leah took place 1 month later. Representatives from hundreds of worlds came to witness the ceremony. The two young queens wore crowns made of living crystal, but they also wore simple human clothes underneath their royal robes. During the ceremony, they established new laws for their empire. Wars of conquest were forbidden. Resources would be shared rather than hoarded. Most importantly, they created the Order of Human Guardians, recognizing the species that had taught them how to rule with love. Hyunwoo and his crew were given the highest honors in the Valari Empire. But the greatest reward was something simpler. At the end of the ceremony, when all the speeches were finished and the crowds had gone home, Ara and Leah still curled up against their human father's chest, just as they had as babies. "Are you proud of us, Papa?" Ara asked quietly. "Will you stay with us?" Leah added. "We still need our family." Hyunwoo wrapped his arms around both girls and smiled. "Always," he said simply. "No matter how big and powerful you become, you will always be my daughters." The new soul became the first human embassy ship in Valari space. Hyunwoo served as the human ambassador, while continuing to be a father to two of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and sometimes late at night, when the weight of ruling an empire became too heavy, the queens of the Valari would still seek comfort the same way they had as tiny babies. They would curl up against their human father's chest and listen to his heartbeat while he told them stories of distant Earth. Some bonds transcend species and time. Some love is strong enough to change the fate of entire civilizations, and sometimes the greatest victory comes not from conquest, but from the simple act of protecting those who need care. The galaxy was a better place because one human captain had chosen to rescue 2 alien babies and love them as his own.